diabetes and having heart disease at the same time. That's how bad it is not to do exercise. In fact, you can predict longevity by how much exercise you can do. If I put you to do exercise, your capacity to do exercise will tell me how long you're going to live. So that's why we need to focus at improving the fitness. This other one, very worrisome. We're showing here that cancers are increasing among young people. And researchers pinpoint at the causes why we're seeing that tremendous trend of more cancers among young people: use of alcohol, highly refined foods, lack of sleep, smoking, and obesity is what's triggering this tremendous epidemic of cancers. This other one about alcohol before conception, 3 months before conception in the male, increases the risk of a heart defect by 44%. So that's why not a good idea to be drinking alcohol and fertility. This other one, this one came in Daily Mail, and the secular newspaper there in England, how Seventh-day Adventists have 30% less cancer than the average American. This has to do with the fact of some of the healthy behaviors of the Seventh-day Adventists, including the stopping work on Saturday that has the potential to decrease stress and so forth. So all those ones and many more like that are found on that Twitter account, Eddie RDMD. Every day I put something new there to try to motivate you to do good, healthy choices in the long term. So let's talk about self-control. Did you know that self-control is directly related to success in life? Even employees like to hire employers that have self-control. Partners like to marry partners that have self-control. This self-control is one of the challenges of humankind. Sometimes we know it's harmful. Sometimes we know we shouldn't do it. And what happens? We do it, isn't it? Why? Lack of self-control. There's this leader in the world of psychology, Baumeister, and he is part of a new movement in psychology by the name of positive psychology. It's called that movement in psychology. See, psychology, if you ever taken a class of psychology, suddenly everybody has psychological problems. If you're taking that class, you start diagnosing everybody. Oh, you're schizoid, and oh, you're bipolar, and so forth. And the problem with the traditional psychology is that it focuses too much on the disease. So the movement of positive psychology started challenging that. It says, you know what? We have it mixed up. Instead of focusing on the negative aspects of the human being, why don't we focus on the positive aspects of humankind? And they started this comprehensive study of what makes humans positive. And one of the things that they identify is self-control. So in their conclusion, after studying self-control, they realized that most of the diseases, most of the social problems that we have as society in the modern world, you can trace many of those factors to lack of self-control. For example, heart disease. You know, heart disease is the #1 killer of Australians today. And the interesting thing is that we know this disease. We know what happens. We know how to prevent it. For example, we know that when the arteries start to clog in, that is what happens when bad habits are done long term. And then if the blockage occur, that's when the problem happens. Depending where it happens is how we call it. If it happens to occur at the level of the heart, we call that a heart attack. If that happens at the level of the brain, that's what we call a stroke. And here in this surgery, which is not very, very commonly done, you can see the artery of that heart. When the surgeon starts pulling up this stuff out of the artery, that is what we are talking about by heart disease. And the sad part about it, this is very common among young people in the Western world. In this study, it was shown, this is published in the journal from the American Heart Association. It was shown that when they were analyzing young people, heart vessels, notice this one has 19 years of age, and here is inside the vessel, and you can see here, that's the atherosclerosis. That's the plaque that already at the age of 19, sadly, many young people already have it. And you can see, in my opinion, the even more worrisome is this 33-year-old woman. She has already half her artery clogged in, of her heart. If she keeps doing what she's been doing, she's going to have either a stroke or a heart attack very, very soon. The problem is that she doesn't even know that she has a problem because there's not too many symptoms that appear with that. In a separate study, as they analyzed the bodies of young people that had a violent death between the ages 20 to 32, when they analyzed the blood vessels of those young people, 78% had already heart disease in them. Very, very sad. So, in 1991, there was an extremely important meeting that took place in America. It was the first international conference for the elimination of coronary artery disease. And some of the top experts on the subject of heart disease prevention spoke there. The research is there. Any physician, any lay person can Google and read those studies. How? We know how to prevent it, and even we know how to reverse many of these cases. Yet, why, even though in 1991, it was very clear, shown how to prevent this, why the world hasn't changed much? In fact, it's interesting if you compare the numbers from back then, 1991, to 2025, we have even more heart disease today, even though the knowledge is there. So the issue is not lack of good scientific information. Again, as I told you, you can go to Google and you can read the actual papers showing this information. But it has to do due to a mental disease that is very commonly found on every person in the world, and that is lack of comprehensive self-control. That is what's causing this problem. Then we have things like diabetes. Diabetes plagues, especially areas in which the genetic factor is present. You have that genetic factor, you combine it with issues of the lifestyle, man, you have an explosion of diabetes. I was actually in Tonga earlier this year, and Tonga is tremendously devastated by the disease of diabetes. Murder, you can trace that one also to lack of self-control. Instead of the person saying, you know what, even though they hurt me or whatever, I'm not gonna act about it and so forth, they go ahead and end up doing, something that they regret for the rest of their lives. Rape. Also, you can trace that to lack of self-control. If the person would say, that's actually not the right behavior to do and so forth. In fact, many of the crimes, you can trace them to lack of self-control. Financial failure, does that have to do with lack of self-control? That overspending more than what is entering, you violate those mathematics, you're in big trouble. You cannot do that over and over. Drug addiction. That first time that the drug was offered, instead of saying no, I don't use that, you inject that stuff, you take that stuff, and boom, suddenly, this takes hold of you, and it's a really, really hard situation. Techno addiction, it's go to take your Opal car and take the public transport here. What is everybody doing there in that public transport? Everybody there with that techno addiction. Unwanted pregnancy, most of these ones have to do there with the factor of self-control. Abortion, sexually transmitted diseases, that we're seeing some, negative trends of this worldwide. Divorce, instead of working out things and so forth, lack of self-control. Unemployment, for doing what you're not supposed to be doing. When they hire you to do something, that's not a good combination, isn't it? That's going to end up in a negative spot. Alcoholism, relational problems. And there is a very important principle that we need to learn this afternoon, and that is the principle of temperance. Temperance can be defined as moderation in the things that are healthy and abstinence in the things that are harmful. Simple, it's not even complicated. So if something is good for you, use it in a moderate way. If something is not good for you, then as simple as that, you shouldn't do it. And this is something that the world has it mixed up. You can use it a little bit and so forth. Oh yeah, try that with cocaine. Let's see how it goes, There's things that you just shouldn't use, period. And if something is good, we're going to do it in a temperate way. So in order to have that strict temperance, I need comprehensive self-control. That's the way that is going to work. And this principle of temperance in this work of positive psychology, notice how they define it. It says there, in our endeavor to measure the class of strengths that we found that among people in the mainstream United States, strengths of temperance are infrequently endorsed and seldom praised. Funny, isn't it? We're seeing all these advantages of self-control, yet who gets the clap? Who gets the praise? The intemperate, Oh, look at him, he drank 15 beers, He's the one that gets the clap. But the one that says, no, I don't want that beer, oh, that's the one that is not going to be praised and so forth. Regardless, the strength of temperance are very important, and they have a rich array of positive consequence for the psychological good life. So there is a book that was written with some of these findings of positive psychologies, and it's called Character, Strengths, and Virtues. Excellent book. So this temperance, character, strengths, and virtues, the people that started the movement of positive psychology, they're the ones that wrote that book. And in that book, you're going to find some of those characteristics that I mentioned to you that make a human being, a good human being. And some of the characteristics that are written there in that book are things like forgiveness and mercy, humility and modesty, prudence, self-control is there also. So in the most comprehensive study that has been done on self-control, in order to measure things, they devised this special questionnaire. In that questionnaire, the participants answer with a 1, that answer not at all, or in a range to 5, very much. Sometimes the 1 was the good answer, sometimes the 5 was the good answer, so that somebody doesn't trick and just write the same number, it was not that easy. You need to think about it and so forth. So let's see some examples of some of the questions that were in that questionnaire. I am good at resisting temptation. Which one would be the self-control? Not at all or very much? Number 5 or number 1? Number 5, I have a hard time breaking bad habits. I do certain things that are bad for me if they are fun. I have trouble saying no. And it continues, getting up in the morning is hard for me. I blurt out whatever is on my mind. I spend too much money. I keep everything neat. I get carried away by my feelings. I do many things on the spur of the moment. I don't keep secrets very well. I often interrupt people. I am always on time. So I'm not easily discouraged. I eat healthy foods. Pleasure and fun sometimes keep me from getting work done. I have trouble concentrating. Sometimes I can stop myself from doing something even if I know it is wrong. I am able to work effectively towards long-term goals. So that's the way that they measure. There's even more questions. So by understanding what things are related to self-control, they were able to correlate other aspects of the person. So there were 32 traits that were measured. And in this study from these researchers, one particular factor predicted how good in school somebody was going to do. What was that trait you think that would predict the scores in school? Self-control, that's right. In fact, it's interesting the higher the self-control, the better the task that was done. In this impulse control, the lower the self-control scores, the higher the dysfunctional and impulsive behavior that these students were performing. So as you can see, self-control is something very important. In fact, they even correlated that from small children that display better self-control, later in life, you could see how those markers started correlating with better scores in university and so forth. And this self-control is something that we need to work on. And also, things like eating and drinking problems, those things also are related to self-control. So, when you take other aspects of psychology, you can also correlate them to better self-control. For example, higher self-worth, better at controlling your anger, fewer symptoms of somatization, depression, anxiety, paranoid ideations, and so forth. All these things, there is a self-control aspect of things, not just by one, but by multiple papers that have documented this trend. And people with high self-control accept themselves as valuable, worthy individuals that can adapt to the different things, instead of having some sort of inflated or narcissistic view of themselves, said the studies. And people with high self-control, they do things much better. They're more stable emotionally. They have better, connections with their partners. Therefore, they make better partners. They also get along with people that sometimes may not necessarily believe like them. They're more accommodating. They have better relationships. They adjust better to those relationships. They have better families. They have less conflicts. They have more empathy. And they don't wallow on their own personal reactions and their attachments. They feel more secure. As well as their use of money is better spent on those people. So the researchers write, in the course of daily life and in spite of the best efforts at self-control, people inevitably sin and transgress. And to me, the interesting thing is that this is a secular publication. This is the secular people that write this, at least on rare occasions. And notice this interesting fact. People with high self-control have low shame and high shame-free guilt. And this is very important because individuals with high self-control, they take responsibility by the mistake that they do. Instead of blaming others, they take that responsibility, and in that way, they learn about it, and in that way, they can avoid falling back again on the same situation. So, in short, the researchers write, the high self-control are able to focus on their behavior, and in doing so, they make amendments. And that's great, because that mistake that you made, you learn something from it, decreasing the probability, that you're going to fall back and do it over and over again. While the people with low self-control, They start having this shame that keeps going and going and going, and the person becomes defensive, the person starts denying that they did it, and so forth. So if that's the attitude that the person adopts, the probability of falling back again and redoing that again increases. Children with self-control, as I was mentioning, fewer problems in their behavior. They manage their anger much better. They get along with others. They become more popular. Their scores at the university 10 years later, you can see with the high self-control, they do much better later on. What are the negative effects of having self-control? As they say in their book, Character, Strengths, and Personalities, there is no scientific studies anywhere demonstrating any undesirable consequences of high self-control. In fact, they started trying to relate self-control with other issues of psychological problems. They could not find anything negative. Although our society, there are many people that exist that stereotype of an over-control person, those people, actually, the problem is not a self-control problem. It's another issue that they have, according to Character, Strengths, and Virtues. Now, the interesting thing, in the book, Character, Strengths, and Personality, they take the personality, they try to measure it, and then they try to explain or show what ways you can develop it. And look at the conclusions. Relatively little is known about how self-control is acquired and strengthened. So they spend the whole chapter praising self-control, saying, no, this is very important, this is related to success, this is related to better relationships, and so forth. But unfortunately, we don't know how you acquire it and strengthen. And they close the section, the topic must be regarded as a high priority for further research, especially in the view of the many benefits that self-control has. So, how can you strengthen that self-control? Well, we do know about it, and that has to do with an area of your brain that we're going to dwell a little bit about it. People who live only in the present moment are unlikely to exhibit good self-control, whereas future-mindedness will facilitate self-regulation. So, there's an area of your brain that helps you think that future-mindedness. For example, if I give you a paper and I tell you, okay, I need you to tell me how you're going to spend your money the next month. You need to use future-mindedness. You know, you need to start thinking, okay, you know, yes, I need to pay the electricity and the course I'm taking in the school, I need to pay that, and yeah, I have this debt, I need to take care of that, and you start thinking towards the future, and that's how you can figure out, you know, your current budget that you have. Did you know that there's an area of the brain that does this? That area is called the frontal lobe of the brain. So the frontal lobe of the brain, people like computer programmers use it. Somebody that is programming an app, in their head, they can see that app. Okay, you know, when they press here, that's gonna, you know, bring information from this database, and it's gonna connect it to this other thing, and it's gonna show this graphic, and so forth. The app doesn't exist, but in their head, they can see that app. Again, that's a function of the frontal lobe. So the frontal lobe is where we find spirituality, morality, and the will. And we know that is exactly where self-control is located in the brain. Now, one factor that has been shown to improve that self-control is spirituality. You know, I've done some research on addictions, and I have presented that research at secular addiction conferences. And to me, it's very interesting what those research show very clearly is that when you add that spiritual element on the addiction program, the addiction program becomes more successful. For example, I found this interesting quotation. Eric Clapton, you know, some of you may be familiar with this very famous artist. Eric Clapton had a big problem with alcohol. He just couldn't overcome that problem of alcohol. And notice what he says. I ask for help, and getting down on my knees, I surrender. Since that moment, Eric Clapton says that he has never seriously considered taking another drink. That night, Eric Clapton was suddenly blessed with self-control. Interesting, isn't it? How that spiritual element needed to come so that changes could take place. See, because as a doctor, how am I going to change your self-control? In fact, if I do a surgery, surgery usually breaks things. You know, you don't put them together. You don't strengthen the self-control by a surgery and so forth. If I shock you electrically on your brain, I don't give you self-control. I actually do the opposite. That electric shock actually damages some of those neurons, and you're more likely to have less self-control secondary to that. So the research is very interesting. This is another a published paper in the secular scientific literature. Men and women pray for the well-being of a close friend daily for 4 weeks, while others simply thought positive thoughts about their friend. Those who pray were more willing to forgive not only their friend, but other people in general. Fascinating, isn't it? Again, what happened there? There was a change there at the level of the frontal lobe, secondary to that behavior. This other one, participants were insulted and instinctively felt angry. However, if they pray for the well-being of the offending person, or even for the well-being of another person who had no connection whatsoever to the anger-provoking situation, they became less angry. And the conclusion of the study, prayer reduces anger by about 30%. So if you're having, issues with the temperament and anger and so forth, here is an interesting strategy that we can put in place to decrease the anger. So the frontal lobe is found in the foremost part of the brain. And no, the brain is not in colors like this. This is just for illustration purposes. And each of the parts of the brain has different functions, but the main conductor of the brain should be the frontal lobe of the brain. In fact, when you see successful programs like Alcoholic Anonymous, there's a program as I go around the world, I see this over and over in many countries, helping people try to avoid and helping people, overcome that problem of alcohol. And notice the 12 steps. We admit we are powerless over alcohol, that our lives have become unmanageable. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Many people don't know the history of Alcoholics Anonymous. Alcoholics Anonymous started trying to help people without that spiritual element, and it didn't work. They had to incorporate some spiritual element. That's when this program became very effective and has been able to help multiple people overcome their habit of alcohol. We make the decision to turn our wills and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. Made a search and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Among the other steps, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to other human beings the exact nature of our wrongs. We entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character and humbly ask Him to remove our shortcomings. Made a list of all the persons we have harmed and became willing to make amendments to them all. Made the amendments to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admit it. It continues, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for the knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. So, the change can be possible, and as you can see, when we add that element, it's more likely to happen. Dr. Prochaska from Harvard University has shown how people change. And he summarizes that into 4 steps. Unconsciously incompetent. It means that you don't know you may be doing a wrong behavior, therefore you're not changing. For example, we had recently a participant that shared how she had a problem with Coca-Cola. She was addicted to this Coca-Cola. And she was saying that she didn't even know that it was bad for her. Until one day she came to some health lectures, and he learned that Coca-Cola is not the best thing for your health. Then she became, step 2, consciously incompetent. That means that now she knows that she needs to change, but she's not changing. So she shared how that this battle started going on in her head. As she tried to stop that Coca-Cola, she went into the step number 3. It was a battle. Every time she would get thirsty, what did she thought about? Coca-Cola. So she said that she constantly said in her head, no, Coca-Cola, no. I'm going to take water. It said that it was a battle, because automatically her mind went this way, but she said, no, it's not that way, it's this way. And she kept that battle going on, and then she said that after a while, something happened. She went to step number 4. Now, whenever she got thirsty, naturally, she started wanting water, no longer Coca-Cola. And that's step number 4, unconsciously competent. Now you're doing the change, and yet now you don't even think about that. And that's the good news about behavioral change, that as we make those changes and continue to repeat these changes, suddenly we're going to see how it becomes easier and easier to do them. So those 4 steps of change is something that each one of us can apply. So we need to take care of our frontal lobes. We need to protect it from mechanical injuries. If you're riding a bike or things like that, make sure that you are protecting that frontal lobe. Give him some good oxygen because the brain needs a lot of oxygen to function properly. Give him some good nutrition. Get adequate sunshine. Exercise that frontal lobe. Control the things that you put. If what you're putting is harmful, don't put those things. If what you're doing makes you take, more bad habits and so forth, don't do those things. And prevent and control disease that affect it. So throughout this series this week, we're going to dwell into these different aspects of things of how to take good care of our brains and of our whole body. So we are going to have a little break and continue with the second part of the seminar. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Eddie. Awesome stuff, mate, considering you just jumped off a plane and got straight here. Really appreciate it. Folks, just to let you know, if you walk straight out this door and follow your nose straight ahead, you'll get to a table laden with some food, and for the next 15 minutes you get to have some healthy snacks, stretch your legs, and then we'll come back in here for the next session. Thank you. Now, Ashok? Ah, okay. I'm going to say grace for the food. Let's pray. Father, thank you for good food and for the health that comes with eating that too. So would you bless this to our bodies today in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, go for it. 15 minutes. Your time starts now. Okay, welcome back everybody. Hope you got a little bit more in your tummy and went to the healthier end of the table and not the sugary end, but was tempting, wasn't it? So here, testing our self-control. All right. Dr. Eddie, thank you for what you've presented. Now, as we came back, we noticed some nice blue-covered books out there on the table, and there's a lot of interest in those. Do you want to just share? They're $20, I understand, and you've brought them out, and we're really grateful that you have. There's a couple of different ways that people can pay you.
Yeah, so those books have traveled quite a bit together with me. They went to, let me tell you where they went. They went to New York, they went to London, they went to France, they went to Switzerland, they went to China, and now they're in Australia. So I hope they have a freaking flyer plan. You know, they're going to get some nice miles. So yeah, it's going to be 20 Australian. If somebody has a credit card and wants to pay with credit card, let me write down here the account. What you can do PayPal, okay? So for PayPal, here's the information. So you can see it right there. So that's the information for the PayPal. And just go to PayPal and select that. So I think it shows you the name. That's my name, so you can confirm that that you have the right person. And so yeah, let's continue with our seminar. I'm originally from Mexico. And if you have questions about it, look at this one. You know? The real thing, you know. And other things that I put on my Twitter account, this is a very interesting study. In this study, it was showing that if you are in the night after sunset, having too many bright lights, exposing yourself to those bright lights, that actually increases your mortality between 21 and 34%. The day is to be exposing yourself to bright light. The night is to decrease the brightness of the lights. In fact, lights above your head, those are the most worrisome. You want your lights to be in the bottom, okay? And also, the opposite has a positive effect. If it's the day and you're going out and getting that bright light, that actually decreases your mortality between 17 and 34%. So we are not bats, you know. Bats do really good, you know, in the night. We are humans and we need to rest at night. If you acquire the book, you will see that there's a whole section there about sleep, and I talk about that light principles there. So just go ahead and look it up. You will see all those important principles to have a better night's sleep. This other one about the forever chemicals. There's a reason why they're called forever, is because when you put them in your body, you know, the body takes a long time to try to get rid of them. An important source of these forever chemicals are certain cooking pots. Sometimes they put those chemicals so that food doesn't get stick on them. You do not want that type, okay? Also, surfaces like paper, that when you put water, the water doesn't wet the paper. that one most probably has forever chemicals. So watch out for that. This one also very interesting study, how we're seeing a 46% in prescriptions related to dementia in Australia. You think that's good? No, that means the numbers are just going up and up and up and up and up. This week we'll be dealing, with more details about this topic. Don't miss it, as we're going to be talking about the latest research about it. This other one, very interesting study. This study is done by a secular person. He's not even a Christian. He's from National Geographic. And he found out that people that attend religious services 4 times a month increase their longevity between 4 to 14 years. Fascinating, isn't it? So if you see this as an investment, this is a really good investment, I mean, the amount of time that you're spending there as the amount of longevity that you're going to get is what I would call a good deal, You're getting here a really, really good deal. Another one of my tweets, this one, that APOE4, that genetic factor that can increase the risk for dementia, if you have it, it doesn't mean you are going to get dementia. It just means you are closer to the precipice. So if you're closer to the precipice, what should you do? You need to get back as far as possible because you are at higher risk of falling. I actually did the test myself. Thank God I don't carry this gene. But if you are a European, the odds are 1 in 4 people that carry this dementia gene. The ethnic group that has the highest probabilities are people of African origin. African origin, 1 in 34% will carry this gene. The ones with the lowest one happens to be the people from Asia. In Asia is 18%. So from 100, 18% of them will carry this gene of dementia. This one, interesting study on caffeine, how it affects sleep. That's not good because when you affect the sleep, you decrease the melatonin, and that has multiple implications like that. So you find those and many more like that in that Twitter account, Eddie RD, MD. And you can go and fetch that. So let's continue with our topic. Lifestyle medicine is the answer. And let me tell you why I am so passionate about lifestyle medicine. I originally studied computer science. And this started back in the 1990. Back then, nobody had internet, the average person. You wanted to do some internet, you needed to go to a major university, and the thing was like super slow. You would sit down there and the thing take a long time to get it. And when I was in my last semester of computer science, it happened to be that my friends started running, so I started running with them. And shameful enough, I was always the last place among my friends. I said, you know what, this is not right, I need to do something to improve my times, It's shameful that I go running with my friends and I'm always the last place. So what I did to try to improve my times, I went to the library of the university to read what are the people that are winning the races, what are they doing? And that's when I found out these runners, the Kenyans, the Ethiopians that are winning the races, They're on a whole food, plant-based diet. That's one of their secrets. So I said, okay, I'm going to see what happens if I switch my diet. Switch my diet, and sure enough, I started becoming so fast, I started getting some first places in my town. I could see how my time started improving. This was not something like psychological or something, you know. In fact, in parentheses, a few months ago, the last time I ran a 5K, I won the race. Not my category, the race. I mean, I'm not supposed to be doing those things at my age, you know. Yet, you know, that diet, you know, definitely is having an impact. Not only my time started improving, my schoolwork started improving. Every single one of my subjects became top notes, top notes, top notes, top notes. I could see how my mind was changing as a result of changing my diet. I applied when I finished in 1994 for a master's in computer science. They liked my profile, they accepted me, but while I was waiting to start that master's program, I visited for the first time a lifestyle center. I have never been in such place. And my brother was taking a class there, and supposedly I was going to go and visit him just for the weekend. When the doctor in charge of the institution, again, this is 1994, you know, very few people knew about computers. When he heard that I had just graduated from computer science, he was like, hey, I have many computer problems in my office. Would you mind coming and helping me? I said, sure, I'll be happy to help you. In 1 weekend, I fixed most of his computer problems. He was so impressed, he offered me a job on the spot. And to me, it was very confusing. I'm supposed to start a master's program. Geographically speaking, I cannot do both things. And he wants me to stay there and work there. What am I going to do? After thinking about it, I decided not to do the master's program and rather join that institution. And my life changed as a result of exposing myself to lifestyle medicine. When I saw with my own eyes how problems like diabetes were being reversed, hypertension, obesity, depression, autoimmune conditions, and all kinds of things were getting better, I said to myself, you know what? Computers are nice, but this is what I need to do with my life. And that's when the desire to go into medical school came into my heart. I also work in South Dakota, where they have the famous faces there of the presidents. Just 15 minutes from there, there is a lifestyle center there. I also work in Hawaii. We're doing programs for Asian people from America and Asia. I also work in Norway. That's the reason why I speak Norwegian, because I lived there for many years. I actually go there and try to give him a hand at least once a year. And I work with Dr. Nedley and Weimar for many years also. In fact, people say that I look like him, you know, maybe on the Spanish version of him. And currently residing in Pennsylvania. It's a possibility I may move actually to Puerto Rico in a few months. We're actually in the middle of evaluating that option. So it's funny because, you know, the very first lifestyle center that I was working, that place in California, there was this man that came there. He was a very important researcher on the weather. And he's the one that told me how in Loma Linda, California, that's one of the most polluted places in America. All the pollution from Los Angeles gets blown by the wind, and there's a series of mountains around Loma Linda. So you have one of the most polluted places in America, yet you have one of the longest living people in America there, living there. The Seventh-day Adventists that live there. So interesting how they're able to overcome the fact that they have all this pollution, yet outliving by 10 years the average American. And that researcher had a big problem. He had an autoimmune condition called ankylosing spondylitis. If you have ever seen one of these people, you're never going to forget them. Their spine fuses because of the autoimmunity, and they move like a robot because they cannot turn their torso. They cannot bend down and so forth. I saw it with my own eyes. This researcher, when he came to our center, after we did this lifestyle intervention, he started regaining his mobility. It was absolutely impressive. So years later, when I was studying medicine, I was rotating with one of the physicians, and there's this man that entered the room. I could see, you know, the way that he walked and everything, that he had this problem. So the attending physician says, what problem does he have? I told him very securely, oh, he has ankylosing spondylitis. We're like, did you read the file? How do you know that? Well, you know, I had that experience, you know, previously from being, you know, at this lifestyle center. And yeah, you know, we talked about it, you know, some of the things that he needed to do and so forth. So the good news is that our brains can change and behaviors can be changed. And that's the beauty of lifestyle. Number of conditions, but wisely applied, it can actually reverse disease. And this lifestyle intervention has multiple evidence-based things. Among them, a whole food, plant-based diet, stress management, exercise, psychological and spiritual support, good rest, avoiding substances that may harm, good air, oxygen, proper hydration, and all these things that have been thoroughly researched and demonstrated that they can help prevent and reverse disease. So lifestyle medicine is the right idea for the right time. And the reason why I say that is because as I travel worldwide, I see the trend. We are getting sick of things that are called chronic diseases. Diseases that keep going and make life quality worse and worse and worse. And things like diabetes, heart disease, joint problems, and so forth, they keep going up and up and up as time goes by. So that's why it's the right idea at the right time. So this lifestyle medicine has many stories. One of them is Dr. Kim Williams. Dr. Kim Williams, he was a very successful cardiologist doing the usual cardiology. And one day, a very sick person came to him, classic patient. His numbers were off the roof. His diabetes was out of control. He had issues with his cholesterol, and he was starting to have some signs of issues with his heart. So he went to see the cardiologist. The cardiologist, Dr. Williams, prescribed the usual prescription that he gives, a bunch of meds, and he didn't talk at all about lifestyle. He sent them home and said, I want to see you in a month. His patient didn't obey the doctor. Instead, he went to the internet and happened to come across lifestyle medicine. And he read, you know, some of the evidence. He saw some of the documentaries that are around there and decided to change his lifestyle, adopting the plant-based diet, improving his exercise, and all these good behaviors that we're talking about. He comes a month later, man, his numbers were beautiful. In fact, his diabetes was on the way to being reversed. So Dr. Williams says, oh, I see that you took all the medications that I gave you. he was like, you know what, I didn't take a single one of your medications. He's like, what? So what did you do? So then he started telling him, hey, I found, these researchers, Caldwell Esselstyn, Dr. Furman, Dr. Ornish, and so forth. And that suddenly stunned Dr. Williams because he realized he himself was on that path to becoming sick like that patient. So he decided to go back to the scientific literature, start reading, and sure enough, I'm telling you, the evidence is there. This is no quack thing. There's a lot of scientific evidence behind this. And he realized he needed to change his focus and start incorporating that lifestyle medicine approach. And he became actually the president of the American Cardiology Society. And he went and started telling his people that he was leading, we need to embrace lifestyle medicine. Things like heart attacks, he says, those things shouldn't be the number one because, as I told you previously, we know how to prevent and reverse these problems. He writes, for example, in the New York Times, you can find the article there, advice from a vegan cardiologist, In fact, he has a famous saying that says, there's two types of doctors, those that read the literature and those that don't. And saying, basically, if you read the scientific literature, you're going to understand that lifestyle medicine is the way to go. So, lifestyle, this is a paper that was published with some of the major medical associations worldwide. And this consensus paper, it says, lifestyle changes and medical therapy should be the mainstay for most patients with stable heart disease, focusing on eliminating all unhealthy behaviors. So, see, it changed now the whole perspective of how we are supposed to treat heart disease. For all the patient groups, the current consensus emphasizes that lifestyle modification remains a critical component of heart disease risk reduction. So you want to reverse heart disease, you want to prevent it, this is the route to take. So what is the cause? See, it's like this illustration. Suppose that your faucet broke down. The water is pouring down on the ground. There's two ways to try to solve this problem. You can buy the most expensive mop, the one that picks up the water really well. But it's a never-ending job. You're going to be picking water, pouring it down, picking water, pouring it down, picking water, pouring it down. That is the approach if you try to solve many of these problems just with medication and you don't do other changes. In my opinion, it would be a better idea if we fix the faucet, isn't it? Then the water will no longer be pouring down, and in that way we'll control this problem. That is exactly the focus of lifestyle medicine. Dealing with the root cause of the problem and making those changes permanent so we can fix that faucet. So the body has tremendous capacity to start reversing disease. For example, can lifestyle medicine reverse depression? I have a lot of experience in this. I have 20 years of working with depression. As we publish, this is my study. You find it there on that ResearchGate page. In this study, we were demonstrating that in only 10 days, by dealing with the root cause of depression, we are able to decrease our patient depression. This is a sample of 1,000 patients, from moderate high depression to no depression on average. That is amazing. And same story for anxiety. We published our paper on the American Journal of Lifestyle Medicine demonstrating how depression has causes and we can reverse them. And what we propose is that there are 10 root causes of depression. By identifying them, you can reverse them. If you get my book, you're going to find these 10 causes and a little bit more explanation on chapter 21. You will find that information there. And this is not just our idea. This is another published paper that was done years later after ours, showing pretty much those 10 factors that we published a while ago, 2024. They publish those things. What about heart disease? Can we reverse heart disease? See, there was a very important study that was done back in 1978. This is the reason why it's kind of blurry is because this is 1978. We didn't have all the resolution and nice monitors and things that we have today, but still you can get a good idea. Here what you're seeing is they inject this small amount of radiation in order to visualize how the blood flow is arriving to the heart. And you can see here that this heart is in trouble because like here, you can see how it's black? That means there's not much blood reaching there. That's not good. And after lifestyle interventions, this is in May, by June, you can see how the blood flow improved tremendously in that heart. Can you see that? Notice how now you can visualize the whole heart now, secondary to the fact that heart disease started healing. And the tremendous changes, again, the reason why the graphic looks like that is because 1983, So you can see here, blood flow improved tremendously. There was this was a randomized controlled trial. There was another group, and notice that didn't get better, that actually got worse. So with showing that actually what they were doing, it was actually reversing the problem. In only 14 days, the angina, this is a symptom that people with severe heart disease have, this heaviness in their heart when they do exercise and so forth, it started decreasing. Now, this is not something I just read about it. I've seen it, with the patients, as I have, these 30 years of experience in lifestyle medicine. And both females and males improve. And you can see here, this is how close the artery was. You can see the control group actually got worse and worse and worse. The arteries were getting damaged and damaged and damaged 5 years later, while the people that adopted that whole food plant-based diet and healthy lifestyle, their arteries started opening and opening and opening and opening. As they kept that good behavior long term, the heart started healing. And none of the people that were doing the experimental group took medicines and so forth. It was all lifestyle changing. So as you can see, the improvement was dramatical. You can see again this one, similar study here. You can see how here is black because there's not much blood reaching there. Compared to this one, look at that. That blood started going to all the heart. The heart literally started healing. And 99% of the patients were able to stop and reverse their heart disease as shown, by the imaging studies that they were being used. And again, this is published in the journal JAMA, one of the top journals in the medical world. And the key was, as they started adhering to the program, the more healing that took place. While those people that did not follow the program, things got worse. That is the reality. There were 2.5 times as many cardiac events in the control group, those people that were not doing the changes in that 5-year period. Here is another one of those studies. You can see, especially here, the center is kind of worrisome, how you don't see that color there. That means there's not much blood flow reaching there. And compared to this one, look at that. Nice and complete, that blood flow. The arteries heal, blood reaches, and that is very good. And whatever the angle you were taking. What about prostate cancer? Has there been any research done on prostate cancer? Well, in this study, they had 93 males that had prostate cancer, and they were randomly assigned to the lifestyle changes. And you can see there's a blood test we can do that shows whenever there's damage to the prostate, there's some enzymes that get released because of that. And there's injury there. The cancer continues to injure those patients. And you can see that after 12 months, very clearly, you can see here the experimental, the one that was doing the lifestyle changes, the green, how things go down and down and down and down and down. It means the activity of that cancer is decreasing, decreasing, decreasing. While the other people that were not doing those lifestyle changes, you can see the things got worse and worse as that cancer kept on expanding and harming. So the same story with this. The more the patients adhere to the lifestyle changes, the better the results were in that experimental. And when you measure things like the tumor growth factor, you can see how that experimental, the size of the cancer started decreasing literally. Again, the same story. The more they embrace fully the lifestyle, the better the reversal that took place. And here's one of those patients. You don't need to have a degree in radiology to understand this study. So you find on the left at the beginning of the study, and you find 1 year later the same patient. You can see how that started healing that patient. None of the experimental groups patients, but 6 control groups of patients had conventional treatment during the first year. What about gene expressions? We're learning that many genes are involved in disease. So you may carry the gene. That doesn't mean you need to have the problem. What I was showing you previously with the case of dementia. You may carry that gene that increases the risk. That doesn't mean you need to have dementia. Myself, I did a genetic test, and that genetic test showed me that I am, it said literally in the study, at very high risk for diabetes. Yet, check my blood. Everything completely normal. Even though I have, that genetic predisposition, that doesn't mean I have to develop the diabetes. So our behaviors we're learning have an impact at activating those disease genes that we may inherit. So in this study, it was shown that in 3 months of following lifestyle positive changes, you can literally affect 501 genes. So this is, again, this goes beyond, it's psychological, I feel good, and so forth. No, you're literally having an impact on the expression of your genes. And in this study, it was shown that good, healthy habits have the ability to start decreasing some of those oncogenes, those cancer genes related in cancer of the prostate and cancer of the breast. Is that good news? That's really, really good news. You want to have, the decrease of the expression of the cancer genes. And you can literally see it here visually. What you're seeing here, the green color means the gene got activated. The red one means the gene turned off. You can see here the before and the after. Can you see all that greenery that you can see there? Those genes are related to cancer suppression and cancer prevention. So that was really, really good what happened there. So our genes are not our fate. Even though genes can double the risk of heart disease, we can stop many of those genes with that healthy lifestyle. What about cellular aging? There was also an interesting paper that was published. This is Lancet Oncology, again, one of the top journals in the world. And it was shown that by healthy lifestyle behaviors, there's something called the telomeres. How long your telomere is determines how long you're going to live. So, in only 3 months, the telomeres started increasing in length. What's going to be the result of that? A longer life. In only 3 months, as measured in this scientific paper. Compare to the people that didn't do any changes in the control group, you can see that the telomeres actually got shorter, which is not good. That's actually decreasing the longevity. And again, there was a significant correlation between the what, says there? Adherence, how much you're doing of those lifestyle changes with the length of the telomere. As I tell my patients, look, if you're going to do the changes just halfway, well, you're going to get halfway results. That's just the way it works, So the more you embrace that healthy lifestyle, the more positive results you are going to get. What about angiogenesis? Angiogenesis is very much involved in cancer. So you can see here how that marker that shows as the cancer grows, it needs a lot of blood. So it stimulates the growth of blood vessels and so forth. So this is a way that we can actually measure an activity of the cancer. A cancer that is super active, man, is throwing blood vessels all over the place because it's trying to expand. You can see here that in this group, you actually decrease the activity of that angiogenesis by that healthy lifestyle. And when you measure multiple factors of that angiogenesis, it started improving. What about type 2 diabetes? Can you do something about it, which is a big, big problem worldwide with lifestyle changes? Over half of the Americans have diabetes or pre-diabetes. Especially here in Australia, numbers are very similar, especially with all these ethnicities that you have here, people from African origin, people from Native American, people from the Pacific Islands, Latinos, and Asians, and Indians. All of us, this big group, are very vulnerable to diabetes. And you can see here, it costs a lot of money. Because diabetes, especially not well taken care of diabetes, starts giving all these complications on the eyes, on the kidneys, on the blood vessels, everywhere in the body starts being affected by that. So lifestyle changes are better than medication at preventing diabetes. And this is what this study was clearly showing. You can prevent many of those cases of diabetes by following that healthy lifestyle. And lifestyle changes can be better than drugs at treating diabetes, no question about it. And you can see here that reducing that marker, that hemoglobin A1C, if you're diabetic, you're familiar with this marker, they're going to take it every 3 months. So if you decrease that just with medication and no lifestyle changes, your mortality increases. So that's why that diabetic needs to embrace that healthy lifestyle as they go through that process of dealing with that diabetes. So For now, we should steer away from these two drugs and use effective lifestyle interventions to combat the epidemic. It's in the conclusion of the published paper. This is the New England Journal of Medicine, the top medical journal in the world. So those complications, affect most of the organs of the body. And those complications can be prevented if we are able to reduce that hemoglobin A1C to less than 7 with lifestyle. In this study, it was shown that it's possible to decrease that hemoglobin A1C by embracing that. What about Alzheimer's? Can we reverse some of the Alzheimer's disease? Exactly what I was sharing with you. And here it was shown that changes in the diet, exercise, cognitive training, and vascular monitoring, they started improving the markers for dementia. So the beauty of this is that it's the same recipe. It's not like you need to learn the recipe for diabetes and learn the recipe for heart disease and learn the recipe for cancer and so forth. It's the same healthy lifestyle. And we can summarize that in the word New Start. So, nutrition, whole food, plant-based diet. E for exercise. W for water and hydration. S for sunlight, good levels of vitamin D. T for temperance, what we're talking about in the previous lecture, moderation in the good things, abstinence in the harmful things. And then A for fresh air. R for proper rest. We need daily rest, we need weekly rest, and we need yearly rest, also known as vacation. And trust, which encompasses the emotional, the social, relational, and spiritual aspect of the person. So as you can see, as we make these changes, we are able to affect all the way to the level of the genes when we make those healthy lifestyle changes. So thank you very much for coming tonight, and I hope to see you tomorrow at 7 p.m. And invite your friends, take advantage of the fact that I am here. I'm not here every day in Australia, so they can learn how to take good care of their health. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eddie. Really appreciate it. I have a question for you and then a task for you. Question is tomorrow night.
That's right.
Can you just give us a little bit of a teaser about what you're going to be sharing, just because that might help us as we think about what friends we can bring.
That's
Say,
right.
hey, come along, he's speaking about.
Yeah, so tomorrow we have two important topics. So we're going to talk about a powerful medicine called exercise. And the good news about cancer. You may talk about that's only bad news. No, there's actually good news. So don't miss it. These are very, very two important topics.
Wonderful. Okay, session 1, exercise. Session 2 is? Good, just seeing you paying attention. All right, we've got a giveaway, and Eddie, I'd like you to draw a name out of this box, mate, because all of these wonderful people have put a name in here. I'm holding it up here so that there's no collusion.
Here it is.
Okay, thank you. Who's got this?
And the winner is?
The winner is Brian. Brian. Now, you've got Eddie's books out there, and so we're not going to double up on that because some of you already bought them. This one is not by Eddie. It's by my namesake, Darren Morton. I was at uni with him. And it's called Live More Happy. It's an excellent little book. Excellent little book. Hopefully you don't already have it in your library. So, Brian, congratulations. Thank you, man. And there you go, my brother. Enjoy and live more happy. All right, so tomorrow night, what time? Topic 1 is? Topic 2 is? Oh, you guys are onto it. Okay, so we're gonna pray together and release you, and especially release this man who I'm sure needs to go and put his feet up, or go for a jog or whatever. So let's pray together, and then we'll wrap up. Father, thank you for just giving us the best diet and the best lifestyle right from day one. Sorry, we've kind of wandered off and done our own thing, but we thank you that when we follow the principles you outline, Lord, we are healthier and happier than if we don't. And I just want to thank you for Eddie reminding us of that. Would you continue to guide and bless him? And each one of us too, Lord, as we've been convicted in parts of our life that we might need to tweak. So send us home now with your blessing and your protection, Lord, and we look forward to meeting here again tomorrow night in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, thank you everybody. Safe travels, take care, God bless, and we'll see you tomorrow night.